Admiral Krikstal stood on the bridge of his massive warship and looked at the stars. His ship was called the Sovereign's Wrath, and it was one of the biggest ships in the galaxy. But even with all its power, Krikstal felt worried. The Zephyrian Empire was falling apart. For 800 years, his people had ruled over thousands of worlds. They were tall, green-skinned reptiles with sharp teeth and cold, yellow eyes. They had the best weapons and the strongest ships. Everyone in the galaxy feared them, but not anymore. Krikstal's communication officer turned to him. Her name was Velka, and she looked tired. "Admiral, we have 47 distress calls from our bases. The rebels are attacking everywhere." Admiral nodded slowly. The rebellion had started small, just a few angry planets. Now it was huge. The bug-like Hive Collective led the rebels, and they had convinced many other species to join them. They all wanted freedom from the Empire. "Show me the map," Krikstal said. A large screen appeared in front of him. Red dots marked rebel attacks across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. There were too many to count. Blue dots showed Imperial forces, but there were far fewer of them. "Sir, we cannot fight them all," said Commander Zeketh, his second-in-command. "We need more ships." "There are no more ships," Krikstal replied. "Half our fleet is destroyed. The other half is scattered across the galaxy, trying to hold what we can." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. The Empire was dying. Krikstal walked to the big window that looked out into space. His ship was patrolling near the edge of Imperial space, close to a small yellow star. The star had a few planets around it, including one with blue oceans and white clouds. The Imperial records called it Sol 3, but the locals called it Earth. The Empire had found this system 50 years ago. The planet had intelligent life, but they were primitive. They still used chemical rockets and fought wars with metal bullets. The Empire had marked the system as quarantined and forgotten about it. "Admiral." The sensor officer's voice was sharp with alarm. "Unknown contact approaching at high speed." Krikstal spun around. "What kind of contact?" "Ship, sir, but it doesn't match anything in our database. It's coming from the Sol system." The Admiral felt his blood turn cold. "The primitive system? Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. The ship is small, maybe frigate size, but it's moving at 0.7 light speed. That's impossible for primitives." Krikstal stared at the sensor display. A single ship was racing toward them from the direction of the quarantined world. It moved faster than most Imperial ships could manage. "Maybe it's a rebel trick," suggested Commander Zeketh. "They could have stolen Imperial technology." "No," said the sensor officer. "The ship's design is completely different. Look at this energy signature. I've never seen anything like it." On the screen, the unknown ship looked strange. It was smaller than most warships, but seemed to glow with its own light. It had a sleek design that reminded Krikstal of a knife cutting through space. "Time to intercept?" he asked. 18 minutes at current speed, sir." Krikstal made a decision. "Send standard. Imperial warning. Tell them to stop engines and prepare for boarding." The communication officer worked at her station. "Message sent, Admiral. We're using all standard frequencies." They waited. The unknown ship kept coming, not slowing down at all. "Admiral, we're receiving a reply," Velka said. "But the language is strange. The computer is having trouble translating it." "Put it through." Static filled the bridge, then cleared into harsh alien sounds. The universal translator worked slowly, turning the strange words into something they could understand. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty's Edge. We're here to talk." The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. Earth was the primitive world in the Sol system, but primitives didn't build ships that could travel faster than light. "Earth?" Commander Zeketh whispered. "That's impossible." Krikstal studied the approaching ship more carefully. It was definitely alien technology, but not from any known species. The design was smooth and clean, unlike the rough, heavy ships most species built. "Velka, send another message. Tell them this is Imperial space and they must submit to boarding for quarantine protocols." The reply came quickly. The voice was calm but firm. "We represent the sovereign world of Earth. We request formal diplomatic contact. We will not submit to boarding or detention." Crixtal felt anger rise in his chest. No one refused Imperial commands. No one. Commander, bring weapons online. Target their engines. Sir, should we warn them first? They have been warned. They chose to ignore Imperial authority. The Sovereign's wrath powered up its energy weapons. The ship was designed to destroy entire cities. One small alien ship would be easy to handle. But as Crixtal watched the sensors, something strange happened. The Earthship suddenly moved in a way that made no sense. It seemed to disappear for a split second, then reappear in a different position. What was that? He demanded. I don't know, sir. It was like they jumped through space, but only for a tiny distance. The Earthship was still coming toward them, but now it was moving in an unpredictable pattern. It would vanish and reappear every few seconds, making it impossible to target. Fire warning shots, Crixtal ordered. Energy beams lanced out from the Imperial warship, but they hit empty space. The Earthship had moved again. Then something impossible happened. The small alien ship fired back. Crixtal watched in disbelief as small objects flew from the Earthship toward his massive warship. They weren't energy beams or plasma bolts. They looked like tiny pieces of metal. Incoming projectiles, the tactical officer reported. They're moving at 90% light speed. The metal objects hit the Sovereign's wrath with tremendous force. Alarms began ringing across the bridge as the ship's shields flickered and sparked. Damage report, Crixtal shouted. Sir, their projectiles went right through our shields. We have hull breaches on deck 7 through 12. Crixtal stared at the small Earthship in amazement and growing fear. The primitives from Sol 3 had just damaged an Imperial dreadnought with weapons he didn't understand. Sir, Commander Zekth said quietly, I think we might be in trouble. The Admiral nodded slowly. The galaxy was already in chaos from the rebellion. Now a new player had entered the game, and they had technology that made Imperial weapons look weak. As he watched the Earthship prepare for another attack, Crixtal realized that everything was about to change. The Empire was not just fighting rebels anymore. They were facing something completely new and unknown, and they were losing. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge and watched the huge alien ship grow larger on his main screen. The ship was enormous, easily 10 times bigger than his own vessel. But Jake felt calm. He had trained for this moment his entire life. Behind him, his crew of 43 humans worked quietly at their stations. They all knew they were making history. They were the first humans to meet aliens from another world. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and serious blue eyes. He had spent 15 years in Earth's Space Navy before being chosen to command humanity's first interstellar mission. His crew trusted him completely. Captain, their ship is really big, said Lisa Parker, his chief engineer. She was speaking from the engine room through the communication system. Our sensors show it has enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Thanks for the update, Lisa. How are our engines running? Perfect, sir. The fusion drive is working better than we hoped. We can keep this speed for days if we need to. Jake nodded. The Liberty's Edge was humanity's greatest achievement. It had taken 5 years to build, using Earth's most advanced technology. The ship could travel faster than light using a new type of engine that no one else in the galaxy had ever seen. 3 years ago, Earth's deep space telescopes had detected a massive space battle near the star called Proxima Centauri. The energy readings were incredible. Earth scientists realized they were watching advanced alien civilizations fighting a war. The world's governments had argued for months about what to do. Some wanted to hide and hope the aliens never found Earth. Others wanted to try making contact. In the end, they decided humanity needed to know what was happening in their part of the galaxy. Captain, the alien ship is sending another message, reported Ben Wright, the communications officer. He was a young man with red hair and a gift for languages. They're demanding we stop our engines and let them board our ship. Jake looked at his executive officer, Commander Amy Foster. She was a smart woman with short black hair and green eyes. She had helped design many of the ship's systems. What do you think, Amy? Jake asked. If we let them board us, we lose control of the situation. We don't know their intentions and we can't trust them to treat us fairly. Jake agreed. Earth's leaders had been very clear about one thing. Humanity would not become slaves to an alien empire. They had come here as equals, seeking peaceful contact between civilizations. Ben, send this message. We represent the sovereign world of Earth and request formal diplomatic contact. We will not submit to boarding or detention. Ben typed the message into his computer and sent it toward the alien ship. The reply came back quickly, and the universal translator that Earth scientists had built worked to change the alien words into English. The alien voice sounded angry. You will comply with Imperial authority. Prepare to be boarded immediately. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The aliens were trying to treat humanity like children who needed to be controlled. That was not going to happen. Captain, said Ryan Cooper, the navigation officer, their weapons are powering up. Energy readings are off the charts. Jake had expected this. Earth's military experts had studied alien technology for 3 years ever since they first detected the space battles. They had made educated guesses about how aliens might fight wars in space. Most species probably built big, heavily armed ships that could take a lot of damage. They would fight by trading powerful energy blasts at long range, trying to overwhelm each other's defenses. Humanity had taken a different approach. Katie, are our weapons ready? Jake asked his weapons officer. Katie Bell was a small woman with blonde hair, but she was the best gunner Earth had ever produced. Railguns are charged and ready, Captain. Missile tubes are loaded. We're good to go. Lisa, how's our jump drive? Jump capacitors are at full charge, Lisa reported from engineering. We can micro-jump whenever you give the word. Jake smiled grimly. The Liberty's Edge had been designed around a simple idea. Don't get hit. Instead of building a ship that could absorb punishment, humanity had built a ship that was almost impossible to target. The micro-jump drive was Earth's secret weapon. It could move the ship tiny distances through hyperspace in less than a second. The ship would disappear from one spot and instantly appear somewhere else, usually only a few thousand kilometers away. All hands. This is the captain, Jake announced over the ship's communication system. We came here to make contact with alien life. Looks like they want to fight instead. Everyone stay calm and do your jobs. We're going to show them what humans can do. On the main screen, the alien warship fired its first shot. A massive energy beam lanced through space toward the Liberty's Edge. Jump now, Jake ordered. The ship vanished just as the energy beam passed through the space where it had been. Half a second later, the Liberty's Edge reappeared 3,000 kilometers to the left. Perfect jump, Ryan reported. We're in position for return fire. Katie, target their weapon systems. Show them we're serious. The Liberty's Edge fired its railguns. These weapons used magnetic fields to shoot small metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The projectiles were only the size of a person's thumb, but they were moving at 90% of light speed. The metal slugs hit the alien ship's shields like invisible hammers. The shields flickered and sparked, clearly not designed to stop solid objects moving that fast. Direct hits on their forward weapons array, Katie reported with satisfaction. Their shields can't handle kinetic impact at these velocities. Jake watched as the alien ship tried to return fire, but the Liberty's Edge jumped again before the energy beams could reach them. It was like fighting a ghost that could teleport. Captain, I'm analyzing their ship design, said Peter Martinez, the chief science officer. Peter was a brilliant man who understood both engineering and alien technology. Their ship is built for traditional space combat. Big, slow, and heavily armored. They expect enemies to stand still and trade shots. But we're not standing still, Amy observed. Exactly. Their targeting systems can't lock onto us when we're micro-jumping, and their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles. Jake nodded. Earth's approach to space warfare was based on speed and precision, not brute force. While aliens built ships like flying fortresses, humans had built ships like fighter jets. The battle continued for 20 minutes. The alien ship fired constantly, but every shot missed as the Liberty's Edge jumped around it like a mosquito around a giant. Meanwhile, Katie's railgun shot slowly damaged the alien ship's weapons and sensors. Captain, incoming message from the alien ship, Ben reported. Put it through. This time the alien voice sounded different, less angry, more worried. Earth vessel, we request you cease fire. We are willing to discuss terms. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew had just defeated a ship 10 times their size without taking a single hit. He felt proud of his people and proud of humanity. Ben, send this message. We're willing to talk, but only as equals. No demands, no threats. Just two civilizations trying to understand each other. There was a long pause before the alien reply came. Agreed. We will send coordinates for a neutral meeting place. Jake sat back in his captain's chair and smiled. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in a way no one could ignore. They had proven that Earth was not a primitive world to be conquered or controlled. Amy, what do you think happens next? He asked his executive officer. Amy looked at the damaged alien ship on their screen. I think the galaxy is about to learn that humans don't back down from a fight, and I think that's going to change everything. Jake nodded. The first battle was over, but he had a feeling the real adventure was just beginning. Humanity had come to the stars looking for friends, but they had found a galaxy at war instead. Now they would have to decide what role they wanted to play in that war. Admiral Crixtal stared at his tactical display in disbelief. For 2 hours his massive warship had been fighting a single small vessel from the primitive Sol system, and he was losing. The human ship moved like nothing he had ever seen before. It would appear in one location, fire its strange weapons, then vanish and reappear somewhere else. His gunners could not hit what they could not predict. Damage report, he demanded from his tactical officer. Sir, we have lost 60% of our forward weapons. Our main sensor array is offline. Hull breaches on 15 decks. The officer's voice shook with fear. Admiral, we cannot continue this fight. Crixtal felt shame burn in his chest. He commanded one of the Empire's most powerful warships. The Sovereign's wrath had destroyed rebel fleets and conquered entire star systems. Now it was being defeated by a single ship from a world the Empire had dismissed as harmless. How are they doing this? He asked his science officer. Sir, their technology is completely different from ours. They use some kind of short-range spacefold drive. They can jump tiny distances through hyperspace in less than a second. That's impossible. Hyperspace jumps require massive energy and complex calculations. Apparently, not for them, sir. They're making dozens of micro-jumps every minute with perfect precision. On the Liberty's edge, Captain Jake Morrison coordinated his crew's efforts with growing confidence. Earth's military theorists had been right about space combat. The aliens fought exactly as predicted, using massive ships and energy weapons in long-range duels. Katie, target their remaining sensor clusters, Jake ordered his weapons officer. If they can't see us, they can't fight us. Katie Bell worked at her targeting computer with deadly efficiency. Railguns locked on target, firing now. The metal? Projectiles shot from the Liberty's edge at incredible speed. They were so small and fast that the alien ship's sensors could barely detect them. By the time the aliens realized they were under attack, the projectiles had already hit their target. Direct hits, Katie reported. Their sensor array is completely down. Excellent work. Lisa, how are our jump capacitors holding up? From the engine room, Chief Engineer Lisa Parker's voice came through clearly. Jump drive is running perfectly, Captain. We can keep this up for hours if needed. The aliens have no idea how our technology works. Jake nodded. The micro-jump drive was humanity's greatest advantage. While aliens built huge ships that moved slowly through space, humans had learned to move quickly in tiny increments. It was like the difference between a charging elephant and a darting hummingbird. Peter, what can you tell me about their ship? Jake asked his science officer. Peter Martinez studied his sensor readings carefully. Captain, their vessel is designed for completely different tactics. Look at this armor thickness. It's built to absorb tremendous damage. Their weapons are incredibly powerful but slow to target and fire. They expect their enemies to stand still and trade shots, observed Commander Amy Foster. Exactly. Their entire combat doctrine is based on overwhelming firepower and heavy defense. They have no experience fighting opponents who won't engage in traditional battle. Jake smiled grimly. Earth's approach to warfare had always emphasized mobility and precision over brute force. Human soldiers learned to move fast, hit hard, and disappear before the enemy could respond. Apparently, the same tactics worked in space. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and the pattern was always the same. The alien ship would fire its massive energy weapons at where the Liberty's Edge had been a few seconds ago. The human ship would reappear somewhere else and send railgun projectiles into the alien vessel's weakest points. It was like watching a giant trying to swat a fly with a hammer. "Captain, incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Ben Wright. "Put it through." The alien voice sounded tired and defeated. "Human vessel, we request immediate ceasefire. Admiral Krickstahl wishes to speak with your commander." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew had just accomplished something incredible. They had defeated one of the galaxy's most advanced warships, using technology the aliens had never encountered. "Tell them we're willing to talk, but the ceasefire has to be mutual. Both sides stop shooting." "Message sent, Captain." On the Imperial Bridge, Admiral Krickstahl made the hardest decision of his military career. "All weapons, stand down. Signal the human ship that we accept their terms." Commander Zekth stared at his admiral in shock. "Sir, we're surrendering to primitives?" "Look at our ship, Commander. Look at the damage. These are not primitives." Krickstahl studied the human vessel on his screen. "They have technology we do not understand and tactics we cannot counter. If we continue fighting, they will destroy us." The ceasefire took effect immediately. Both ships held their positions, weapons powered down but ready. "Captain Morrison," came the alien admiral's voice through the communication system. "I am Admiral Krickstahl of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. I must ask, how did your species develop such advanced technology? Our records show your world was primitive, only 50 years ago." Jake considered his answer carefully. "Admiral, humans have always been good at solving problems in unexpected ways. When we learned about your Galactic War, we decided we needed to be able to defend ourselves. In 50 years, you developed faster-than-light travel and weapons that can penetrate Imperial shields? When humanity puts its mind to something, we work fast." There was a long pause before Admiral Krickstahl replied, "Captain, I have fought in space battles for 40 years. I have never seen anything like your ship or your tactics. Your species may be young, but you are not primitive." "We prefer to think of ourselves as creative," Jake replied. "Captain, I must warn you. The galaxy is at war. The Empire is fighting rebels across 1,000 worlds. Your arrival will not go unnoticed. Both sides will want to know about your technology." Chekoe exchanged glances with Amy. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had feared. Humanity had wanted to make peaceful contact, but they had arrived in the middle of a galactic civil war. "Admiral, Earth doesn't want to fight in your war. We just want to establish peaceful relations with other civilizations." "I understand, Captain. But peace may not be possible. Too many species will see your technology as a threat or an opportunity." Jake realized that everything had just become much more complicated. Humanity had proven they could defend themselves, but now they would have to navigate the dangerous politics of a galaxy at war. "Admiral, perhaps we should meet in person to discuss this situation." "Agreed, Captain, but I must ask, do you have more ships like yours?" Jake smiled. "Admiral, you'll have to wait and see." In truth, the Liberty's Edge was humanity's only interstellar warship, but Jake had no intention of telling the aliens that. Let them wonder about Earth's true capabilities. As the two ships arranged their meeting, Jake reflected on what had just happened. Humanity had won its first space battle, but the real challenge was just beginning. Now they would have to find a way to survive in a galaxy where everyone was fighting for control. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was adapting to new situations. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's people could be very creative when their survival was at stake. News of the battle between the Liberty's Edge and the Sovereign's Wrath spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within 3 days, every major species had heard the impossible story. An unknown race from the primitive Sol system had defeated an Imperial dreadnought. Captain Jake Morrison found himself at the center of a galactic storm. His small ship was surrounded by vessels from dozens of different species, all wanting to meet the humans who had changed the rules of space warfare. The meeting place was Kepler's Rest, a neutral space station that floated between the territories. of the Empire and the Rebellion. The station was huge, built like a giant wheel spinning in space. It had been neutral ground for over a century, where different species could meet safely. Jake walked through the station's corridors with two of his officers, Commander Amy Foster and Chief Science Officer Peter Martinez. The corridors were filled with aliens of every shape and size imaginable. They saw tall, blue-skinned people with 4 arms and silver eyes, small, furry creatures that looked like walking bears, beings made of living crystal that glowed with their own light, and many others that Jake could not even begin to describe. "Captain, this is incredible," Peter whispered as they walked. "There must be representatives from 50 different species here, and they're all watching us," Amy added quietly. "I can feel their eyes following us everywhere we go." Jake nodded. Humanity was the newest member of galactic civilization, and everyone wanted to know what Earth was capable of. Some looked at them with curiosity, others with fear, a few with obvious hunger for the technology humans possessed. They reached the main conference room, a large circular chamber with seats arranged around a central platform. Jake estimated there were over 200 aliens present, representing dozens of different governments and organizations. Admiral Krixtal was there, representing what remained of the Imperial government. He looked tired and older than when Jake had first met him. Beside him sat Chancellor Vexmar, a tall Zephyrian, with gold markings on his green scales. On the opposite side of the room sat Queen Mind Zarath of the Hive Collective. She was an insect-like being the size of a small car, with multiple arms and compound eyes that seemed to look in all directions at once. Around her were representatives of the Rebel Alliance. But the most important human in the room was Director Helen King, Earth's first interstellar diplomat. She had arrived 2 days earlier aboard the research vessel New Horizons, bringing with her a full team of scientists, diplomats, and cultural experts. Helen was a smart woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She had spent her career studying international relations on Earth, and now she faced the challenge of representing humanity to an entire galaxy. "Representatives of the galaxy," Helen began, standing at the central platform. "I speak for the people of Earth. We come here seeking peaceful relations with all civilizations." Queen Mind Zarath spoke first, her voice sounding like multiple people talking at once. "Earth humans possess war technology superior to Empire forces. Hive Collective offers full alliance against Imperial oppression. Together we crush remaining Empire worlds." Chancellor Vexmar stood angrily. "The Empire offers Earth full membership and protection in exchange for military cooperation against the rebel terrorists. Your technology could end this war quickly and restore galactic order." Jake watched as other species began shouting their own offers and demands. The bird-like Kastari wanted exclusive trading rights. The rock people called Granite Clans offered mining partnerships. The energy beings, known as the Bright Ones, promised to share their knowledge of hyperspace physics. Helen raised her hand for silence. "Thank you all for your offers, but I must clarify something important. Earth is not interested in choosing sides in your civil war." The room fell silent. Queen Mind Zarath tilted her massive head. "Not choosing sides means supporting Empire oppression. All neutral stance is support for status quo." "That's not true," Helen replied calmly. "Neutrality means we want to find a peaceful solution that works for everyone." Chancellor Vexmar laughed bitterly. "There is no peaceful solution. The rebels want to destroy everything the Empire has built. They will not stop until every Imperial world burns. And Empire forces commit genocide against rebel worlds," Zarath responded angrily. "No peace possible with murderers." Jake realized that both sides were trapped in a cycle of hatred and revenge. The war had gone on so long that neither side could imagine any solution except the complete destruction of their enemies. Dr. Susan Hayes, Earth's specialist in alien cultures, leaned over to whisper in Helen's ear. "Director, I've been studying their history. Every species here thinks in terms of dominance. They can't conceive of cooperation between equals." Helen nodded slowly. This was humanity's opportunity to offer something completely new. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all forms," Helen said, addressing the entire assembly. Earth proposes a third option. Instead of empire or rebellion, what if we created something entirely new? A galactic confederation based on voluntary cooperation, rather than conquest or revolution? The room erupted in confused chatter. Many aliens seemed unable to understand what Helen was suggesting. Admiral Krickstahl spoke quietly. Director King, in all of galactic history, no advanced species has ever offered partnership to their equals. The strong rule the weak. That is the natural order. Maybe the natural order needs to change, Jake said, standing up. On Earth, we learned that cooperation is stronger than conquest. When people work together by choice, they accomplish more than when they're forced to obey. Queen Mind Zareth studied Jake with her compound eyes. Human concept interesting but impossible. How ensure cooperation without force? How prevent betrayal without punishment? Through trust, Amy Foster said, surprising everyone by speaking up. We build trust slowly, by keeping our promises and treating each other fairly. Trust is weakness, Chancellor Vexmar declared. The galaxy respects only strength. Then, maybe it's time for the galaxy to learn a new kind of strength, Peter Martinez added. The strength that comes from diversity and cooperation. Helen saw her chance. What we're proposing is a government where every species has an equal voice, where decisions are made by consensus, not by force, where the strong protect the weak, instead of conquering them. An elderly being from a species Jake didn't recognize spoke up. This has never been attempted on a galactic scale. How would it work? We would start small, Helen explained. A few systems, a few species who want to try something new. We would write a constitution together, establishing rights and responsibilities for everyone. We would create institutions, based on law and justice, not power and fear. And if someone breaks the rules? Asked a delegate from the Crystalline Consortium. Then we have police, not armies, Jake replied. We have courts, not executions. We have rehabilitation, not revenge. The room fell silent as hundreds of alien minds tried to process this radical new concept. For species that had known only empire and rebellion, the idea of democratic cooperation was almost incomprehensible. Finally, Admiral Krickstahl spoke. Director King, you are proposing to overturn 10,000 years of galactic civilization. You ask us to abandon everything we know about government and power. Yes, Helen replied simply. Because what you know isn't working. Your galaxy is tearing itself apart. Maybe it's time to try something different. And if we refuse? Chancellor Vexmar asked suspiciously. Jake stood up and looked around the room. Then Earth will defend itself and wait for you to change your minds. We're not going to force anyone to join us, but we're also not going to become anyone's servants or weapons. Queen Mind. Zareth's multiple voices buzzed with excitement. Human proposal requires much consideration. Hive mind must process all possibilities. Take all the time you need, Helen said. But remember, every day you spend fighting each other is a day you could spend building something better. As the session ended, Jake felt both hopeful and worried. Humanity had offered the galaxy a new path forward. Now they would have to wait and see if anyone was brave enough to take it. The real challenge would be proving that cooperation could work in a galaxy that had known only conquest and rebellion for thousands of years. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy looked completely different. The brutal civil war that had threatened to destroy everything was slowly transforming into something unprecedented, a voluntary transition to a new form of government. Admiral Jake Morrison, recently promoted for his role in establishing peace, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the newly built Harmony. Through the main window, he could see dozens of ships from different species working together to patrol the new Geneva system. The sight still amazed him. Zephyrian Imperial cruisers flew alongside Hive collective bioships. Human vessels worked, with Crystalline Consortium exploration craft. Former enemies were now partners in building something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral, incoming transmission from the surface, reported Lieutenant Ben Wright, now serving as Morrison's communications officer on the larger ship. Put it through, Ben. Director Helen King's face appeared on the main screen. She was speaking. from the surface of New Geneva, a planet that had been chosen as the site for the new government. Behind her, Jake could see construction crews from a dozen different species working to build the capital buildings of the Galactic Cooperative. Council, Jake, I wanted to give you an update on the Constitutional Convention. We've made real progress on the basic framework. That's great news, Helen. How are the different species getting along? Helen smiled, though Jake could see the tiredness in her eyes. Better than expected, honestly. Once they started working together instead of fighting, many of them discovered they have more in common than they thought. The process had not been easy. It had taken months of careful negotiation to convince even a few species to try the human approach. Many had been suspicious of Earth's motives, believing that humans must have some hidden agenda for galactic domination. But slowly, as humanity shared their technology freely and kept their promises of peaceful cooperation, trust began to build. The first breakthrough came when the Crystalline Consortium agreed to join the experimental government. They were followed by several smaller species who were tired of being caught between the Empire and the Rebellion. Any word from the holdouts? Jake asked. Chancellor Vexmar and the Imperial hardliners are still refusing to participate. They're trying to rebuild the old empire in the Outer Rim territories. And Queen Mind Zarath is having trouble convincing some of the more militant rebel groups. Jake nodded. Not everyone was ready for the new way of doing things. Some Imperial loyalists still believed they could restore their dominance through force. Some rebel extremists wanted to destroy every trace of Imperial civilization, not reform it. What about the peacekeeping operations? That's actually going very well. Your joint task forces have been incredibly effective at protecting civilian populations from both Imperial remnants and rebel extremists. Jake felt proud of his crews. Humanity's approach to military action emphasized precision and restraint. Instead of the massive space battles that had characterized the Civil War, human-led forces used small, fast ships to neutralize threats with minimal collateral damage. The key was Earth's tactical doctrine: use overwhelming speed and precision to end conflicts quickly before they could escalate into larger wars. It was like police work on a galactic scale. Admiral priority message. From Earth Command, interrupted Ben. Transfer Director King to my ready room, then put Earth Command through. Jake walked to his private office and activated the secure communication system. The face of Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth's military commander, appeared on his screen. Jake, I have news from the technology sharing program. Dr. Martinez's team has successfully adapted our fusion drive for Crystalline Consortium ships. That's excellent, Sarah. How are they handling the integration? Better than we hoped. It turns out their crystal-based computing systems are actually more efficient at managing the fusion reactions than our standard computers. They're getting 15% better performance than our own ships. This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. When humanity shared their technology with other species, new innovations emerged from the combination of different approaches. The galaxy was becoming more advanced as everyone learned from each other. Any problems with the rebels or Imperials trying to steal our technology? A few attempts, but nothing serious. The species that joined the cooperative are actually helping to protect our secrets. They have as much interest as we do in keeping advanced weapons out of the wrong hands. Jake returned to the bridge and reconnected with Helen on the planet surface. Helen, Sarah tells me the technology sharing is going well. What about the political side? We're making progress on the fundamental structure. Every species will have representation based on their population, but with protections for smaller civilizations. No single species can dominate, and every major decision requires consensus from at least 70% of the members. What about enforcement? That's where your peacekeeping forces come in. The cooperative will have a small military focused on protecting member worlds from external threats and internal violence. But the real power will be economic and diplomatic. Jake understood. Instead of ruling through fear like the old empire, the new government would succeed by making cooperation more profitable than conflict. Jake, there's something else. Admiral Krickstall wants to join us. Jake was surprised. The Zephyrian Admiral? I thought he was loyal to the Empire. He was, but he's seen what we're building here. He says the Empire is dying anyway and he wants to be part of something better. He's offering to bring 12 Imperial worlds with him. What about Chancellor Vexmar? Vexmar has declared Crixtal a traitor and put a bounty on his head, but Crixtal doesn't care. He says he's tired of fighting wars that solve nothing. Jake smiled. If a career Imperial officer like Crixtal could change his mind, maybe there was hope for lasting peace. Admiral, incoming urgent transmission, Ben reported. It's from Queen Mind Zarath. Put her through. The Insect Queen's multiple voices filled the bridge. Admiral Morrison, Hive Collective has reached consensus. We join human experiment in galactic cooperation. Jake felt a surge of excitement. With the Hive Collective joining, the cooperative would represent nearly 40% of the galaxy's population. That's wonderful news, Queen Mind. What changed your minds? Hive observed results of cooperation experiment. Worlds that join become more prosperous, more secure. Warpath leads only to destruction. Cooperation path leads to growth. What about the militant rebel groups? Those who refuse wisdom will face consequences. Hive Collective will police own territories, ensure compliance with cooperative principles. Over. The following weeks, the transformation accelerated. More species joined every day, attracted by the economic benefits and security that cooperation provided. The new government's constitution was ratified by representatives from over 200 worlds. Jake stood in the main assembly hall on New Geneva as Helen King addressed the first session of the Galactic Cooperative Council. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, former enemies now sitting side by side. Citizens of the galaxy, Helen began. Today we make history. For the first time, civilizations are choosing to work together as equals rather than fight for domination. The assembled delegates applauded in dozens of different ways. Some clapped with hands, others with tentacles, and some produced musical tones. This will not be easy, Helen continued. We will face challenges and setbacks. Some will always prefer the old ways of conquest and submission. But we have proven that there is a better path. Jake watched from the viewing gallery as Admiral Crixtal stood to address the assembly. The Zephyrian looked different now, less rigid and more hopeful. Honored representatives, I spent 40 years serving an empire built on fear and domination. I conquered worlds and enforced submission. I believed it was the only way to maintain order. Crixtal paused, looking around the diverse assembly. The humans showed us that strength comes not from ruling others but from working with them. That true power comes not from fear but from trust. The galaxy will never be the same. As the session continued, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that first encounter near Earth. Humanity had come to the stars hoping to find friends, and instead had found a galaxy at war. But they had also found an opportunity to share something precious. The idea that different peoples could work together without someone having to be in charge. Admiral, how do you think this will turn out? Commander Amy Foster asked, joining him in the viewing gallery. Jake looked out at the assembly, where beings who had been killing each other 6 months ago were now debating trade agreements and environmental protection policies. I think we've given the galaxy something it never had before. Hope. The idea that things can get better, that cooperation is possible, that differences can be strengths instead of sources of conflict. And if some species refuse to join, then we keep building and growing until joining us becomes more attractive than fighting us. We prove every day that our way works better. Amy nodded. It's going to take generations to fully transform galactic civilization. Maybe. But every journey starts with a single step. And today, the galaxy took that step.